Card Junkies.
Welcome back, everybody. Tommy T here.
And Hobbit Crom. And we got a new deck tech 2 today, brought to you by Tommy's own thoughts about stuff and things.
You sound so dreadful when you say that, like, God,
It's more of like, hey Hobbit, I like these Jane cards. Can we do something with it? Like, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. A lot of process in this. We took us about a week to build, of me calling and telling him that I want to run this, and he's like, okay, we can make that work. Ideas and stuff, you know? That's how you get by in life.
Right, with all compartments and departments in the line, you know, like with your compartment and department, you know, compartment areas.
Yeah, you know, my thoughts have feelings too. So this is Tommy Strikes Back. Okay, first off, we're going to start off with 4 Evolving Wilds.
Alright, 4 Evolving Wilds. We just needed to dig out basic lands. Out of our deck, we are running 3 colors. That is very important. Also, later on down the deck list, it helps with Delirium. There is one card in here that does that. We'll explain that when we get to it, though. And
then we're going to move on to 3 fortified villages, our reveal lands. So reveal our plains, mountains, forests, our scattered groves to make it come into the game untapped.
It's a plains and a forest, Tommy.
Yeah, but those actually run as...
Oh yeah, game trails. Oh, you included 2 cards.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was lost. It's probably because I can't read.
Next, we're moving on to 3 game trails. Also another reveal land. It's our red-green. Reveal comes into the game untapped.
Correct. Now we're going to move on to our scattered groves, which I think I remember when we were doing our first deck with these, I called them sacred groves and you couldn't find the picture.
I couldn't. I was like, sacred groves? Where are these?
Right, yeah. No, scattered groves, it's our cycle land. It also counts as a plains and a forest, so it can either untap game trails or a fortified village. Also cycles for 2 colorless mana.
Also good to play on turn 1, like Hobbit told me. Then we're running 4 plains, 4 mountains, and 4 forests.
Si, senor.
24 lands in the whole build. It's working pretty well as far as the deck testing went. So, you know, now we'll move on to our 1-drops. We're running 2 bloodlust and incinerators.
Inciter.
That's what I said. Inciter.
Yes. Yes. So, bloodlust inciter is basically when you first meet a girl and you're just like, she's like, I'm on my period, and you're like, oh, do I really care? And you don't. Yeah. But it's what it really does. It's 1 red for a 1/1 that you can tap, give target creature haste until end turn. But please note, he does not have haste himself because that'd make him a badass raging goblin.
Yeah, he would. Then we're moving on to 4 gnarlwood dryad. Okay. He's a 1 green, comes in with death touch and delirium. What delirium does is you have to have 4 different types of cards in your graveyard for that to activate. He comes in with +2/+2 and trample.
No, just
+2.
He gets +2/+2.
That's what I said.
Hell yeah, Tommy. You're getting there, baby. You're remembering stuff and things and stuff. It's impressive.
Hell yeah. Then we're moving on to our 2-drops. We're running 2 Lone Riders. That's a first strike and lifelink. And when you gain 3 or more life, he transforms into...
a 4/4 first strike trample.
Yes. All these abilities will add
lifelink
up into one of our 4-drops. So bear with us.
3.
No, he's a 4-drop, buddy.
Arrow Responder is a 3-drop.
No.
But you can activate it off the Arrow Responder.
Oh, true. Then we're moving on to 2 Karzev. That's a first strike menace. When it attacks, it creates a 2/1 legendary monkey creature that attacks with it.
I'm just going to call him a Boo because I don't actually know his name.
Yeah, I don't know his name either. Then we're moving on to 3 cryptolith rites. What this does is it's an enchantment. It's a 1 green, 1 colorless, and when it comes into the battlefield, all your creatures have tap, add any color mana to your mana pool. Just make all my things mana dorks.
It helps with mana fixing, especially in 3 colors in this format right now.
Yeah.
Having dual lands can be expensive. A lot of things like that can be going on since we are trying to run budget here. So this is another card that allows us to fix our mana base without running all dual lands and then still trying to move on from there. So it helps us fix mana and a couple other things like that.
Yeah.
And possibly ram forward if we need to into some of our bigger drops.
Yeah. Then next we're running 2 heroic interventions.
Heroic intervention is 1 green, 1 colorless.
I need to put it like a button right here, just like this card does.
Holochrome activate. Anyways, heroic intervention. 1 green, 1 colorless. All your permanents are now indestructible and have hexproof.
Yes.
And that includes your enchantments, lands, planeswalkers, hookers and blow, and your liquor and horrors. Whatever you have on the battlefield at the time.
Then we're moving on to our Sylvan Advocate. I think I said that right because that's what it says. It's a 2-drop, 1 green, 1 colorless vigilance, and it has, if you have 6 or more lands, it gets 4?
Yes.
I want to say it's 6 or more.
Do I need to pull out the magical Google machine that you can read to me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see here.
6 or more lands, and it gets +2/+2 plus your land creatures get +2/+2 and trample.
Good thing we're not running Awaken in this deck. I guess we could have put at least 1 card on the sideboard.
Oh yeah.
Bam. It is 6 or more lands, Tommy.
Oh, hell
I
yeah.
thought it was 4.
No, it's 6.
Yeah, you're right. Wow. Good thing we caught that on camera.
It's alright, you know.
Good thing we caught that on camera, Tommy. Otherwise, I don't know what I'd tell you.
Then we're running our 3-drops. We're moving on to aerial responders. 2 white, 1 colorless. First strike, vigilance, and lifelink. Flying, vigilance, and lifelink. Excuse me. That's pretty much it. It's a nasty little dwarf. Then we're moving on to our harvest seasons. This one I can't explain. He actually brought this card to me, and I was like, wow, that's actually really good.
Okay, so harvest seasons, 1 green, 2 colorless. Put a land into the battlefield equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. Okay, so this we're only running 2 because we're trying to use it to ramp some lands out of our deck. When we get into our 4-drops, I'll explain to you more of the defects of this card, but we're only running 2 for basic ramp in this. We're trying to progress forward and try to pull lands out of our deck so we don't draw them later on when we need more appropriate cards for the situation rather than top decking lands, especially running 24. It feels a little heavy, and only I can only even lift so much, you know what I mean? So numbers have a way of skewing things. Like Mark Twain said, there are lies, there are damn lies, and there's statistics.
Damn lies. Then we're going to go ahead and move on to one of our gods we're running in the deck. It's Rhonas. He's a 1 green, 2 colorless, death touch indestructible, and he can only attack or block if you have a creature with 4 or more power.
Correct. He's also a 5/5, and you can always pay 1 green, 2 colorless to get a target creature +2/+2 and trample.
Yes.
+2/+0 and trample. Sorry.
Then we're going to go ahead and move on into our 4-drops. We're running 3 Odric. The lunarch marshal. I think I said that right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I barely know this guy because you brought him to me.
Yeah, it's the lunarch marshal. What he does is he's a 1 white, 3 colorless, and any standard ability that a creature would have, he gives it to all your creatures.
Except Defender, thank God.
Except Defender. But like Menace, First Strike, Double Strike, Lifelink, Flying, etc., he will give it to all your other creatures.
Yep. And if you do need more clarification, it is printed on the card what abilities are put onto it. And so you want to look at explanation starts with First Strike. And then after that it says the same also goes for Haste, Menace, Indestructible, Skulk, down the line, Death Touch, things of that nature.
All standard abilities, though.
Right, so it can't copy a special ability like Sylvan Advocate, who has, if you have 6 or more lands, it gets +2/+2. It does not copy that, but it will copy its vigilance. Which is kind of what the whole deck is about, is how many creatures of different abilities can we put in a single deck and get benefit off of Orderic for it.
Yeah. Next, we're running 2 Oketra. Double Strike Indestructible, and it can only attack or block when you have 4 or more creatures, 3 or more creatures onto the battlefield. I want to say it is a 4 or 5.
It's a 3/6.
It's a 3/6.
Yes.
So more clarification, it'll be posted later.
I need this.
Then we're going to go ahead and move on to our last god. He's the red one. We're running Hazoret. He is a red, 3 colors. He has haste and indestructible. He can only attack or block if you have 1 or less cards in your hand. Plus, I think he has a pump spell, doesn't he?
No. What he has is the ability to discard cards out of your hand and deal
Yes.
2 damage to each opponent.
Yes. Okay.
So even if you're drawing dead cards later on, so on and so forth, you still have a shock ready for their mouth, and allows us a little bit of playroom. You know, being a 5/4, he can activate rhonas. He can activate himself, just like rhonas can activate himself. Same with oketra. Oketra can put a creature token with 1/1 and vigilance into the battlefield. Go ahead and finish up with our last creature, Tommy.
Bear with me. I do play this game. I do love this game. It's just I don't have a great as memory as the Hobocron does. He's a card magician. Our last card in the main board is Samut, the Voice of Dissent. Samut, the Voice of Dissent. Sorry about that. What he does is he has double strike, haste, vigilance, and trample. Correct?
Flash, not trample.
Flash. He's a 1 green, 1 red, 3 colorless. He's a legendary creature. Yes, we know we're running like 6 legendaries in this.
God, I wish we had Captain Sisse, which is a card you probably don't know about.
No, I don't. You want to go ahead and explain a little bit more about Samut?
Okay, so basically, Samut's our 5-drop. We want to try to flash them on their turn. That way we can still respond. If we have a god in play, we can activate their abilities to block, do whatever we necessarily need to. Also, if he's the last card in our hand and we have Hazoret on the field, we can just drop him in as well to help with that.
Yeah.
He has you can tap 1 white and tap him to untap target creature you control, which is good for exert stuff, but we're not really worried about exert at this point in time because we have nothing in this deck that actually exerts.
Yeah.
But to kind of talk about what this deck does more, since we based it off Odric, we try to find as many abilities and powers to put into one form possible. And so looking at from our curve up from 1 drops, we have, we can give haste with the inciter. We can give death touch with the gnarlwood dryad. Lone Rider gives first strike and lifelink. Karzed gives first strike and menace. Cryptolith Rite doesn't really count. Heroic Intervention, if this is activated before Odric does, it also overlaps itself, which is unnecessary. So the Advocate does give vigilance. So onto our 3-drops then, into it, Arrow Spawner gives us flying, vigilance, and lifelink. Rhonas gives us death touch, indestructible. And if we pump a creature with it before we attack,
Everything gets trampled.
correct. So, and then we're moving on to Oketra. Oketra gives double strike and indestructible. Her tokens also grant vigilance. Hazoret grants haste. So anything we drop, we can always just kind of rush with.
Mm-hmm.
So
And not worry too much about our creatures getting destroyed. That's why with one of our 2-drops was the Heroic Intervention. And then once we get into our gods, we start getting indestructible for everything.
right. So combat tricks no longer really work on us. It just really helps that we're trying to push forward with everything. We aren't running any removal main board because we're trying to rely on our deck performing off its curve in itself to have just straight value. So this whole deck is realistically just based around Odric and the ability to grant all these powers. So we just stack this whole deck with nothing but creatures that have these really oddball cool powers that can do something else later on.
Yeah, I haven't really seen Odric being played very, very, very much. So I thought it was a cool little find, and I wanted to utilize it. So what we ended up doing was we made 2 different versions of this deck. Our next deck tech, we will cover that. But now moving on to our sideboard.
Right.
We're running 2 Dusk and Dawn. They're the split cards.
Right. So Dusk, destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. So every creature we have with power 3 or greater is only Odric and our gods. So that's the only thing we'll lose if we play Dusk with Odric on the board is Odric himself. Dawn allows you to return every creature from your graveyard or to your hand with power 2 or less. So if you've looked at our curve and the way everything is stacked, everything has 1 or 2 power all the way through our 3-drops except for Odric and Samut, of course. Mm-hmm. But the whole point is that if we do have to go against a matchup where we are forced to run Wraths, we want to be able to refill our hands and give ourselves card advantage and not feel the same effects that our opponents are having with that way.
Yeah. Next, we're moving on to prepare and fight.
Prepare is 1 white, 1 colorless, untapped target creature gets +2/+2 and lifelink. This is really good for when we're playing matches where we need combat tricks to pull in for like Lone Rider, for example. We pull back in, untap Lone Rider or anybody realistically, and give them +2/+2 and lifelink. We're gonna get our 3 life. It's gonna transform Lone Rider. Gonna gain a little bit of life and kind of give ourselves a little bit of a buffer so we can kind of continue on to the mid and late game where this deck really flourishes. Fight, one of our few target removal spells, if you really want to consider that. You basically make your creature box another creature in a boxing ring and hope yours is Muhammad Ali.
Then we're moving on to 4 magma sprays. Deal 2 damage to target creature, and if that creature were to be put in the graveyard, exile it instead. Pretty simple. It's not really a punch in the face, but it's a fucking kick in the foot.
Right.
Or the shin.
Well, sometimes kicking the shin is all you need, Tony, because with Scrappy Scrounger and Dread Wander around, RFG and cards is pretty important.
Yeah, true. So next we're moving on to 3 sweltering suns.
Sweltering Suns is 2 red, 1 colorless, deal 3 damage to all creatures. It can cycle for 3 colorless mana, so if we don't need it, we can just ditch it, draw a card. It's in there for like early aggression decks where we can't really wait for Dusk, and sometimes people play low to the ground decks like I do in my RDW. I love playing at FNM. But so you can't always hit Dusk and Dawn right on the curve when you need to survive best. So we want to run Sweltering Suns as a backup removal board wipe.
Then we're running on to 2 release the gremlins for artifact destruction. Recently, in the last few days, they said that they banned Marvel works, so we're not really worried about that anymore.
Right. So kind of the cool thing about that is now that brings Marty back into play. We have other things to worry about in that regard. Artifacts still are a prevalent thing. People, I was playing against a guy named Sandstone Warrior again. Super cool guy. Really glad I get to play him randomly on MTGO. Gives us a lot of input on our videos, so really appreciate the guy a lot. But he was playing an artifact. I forget what it was called. Wow, I actually forgot the card's name, but I can tell you exactly what it did. It tap 1, tap target creature can't attack this turn, and put a brick counter on it. Eventually, once you have 3 brick counters, tap it, target creature can't attack or block until your next turn. And so, even in Amonkhet, there are artifacts that are very problematic to a deck like ours, where we need to have those creatures attack still. That way we can get big damage swinging through. Like for example, rhonas with trample, double strike, and death touch. That's pretty good. Like
it's freaking nasty.
If we can possibly get vigilance on it, why not? So
lifelink and flying, why not?
Yeah, like if we could just get all 8 abilities I think we have, if I could ever remember how to count right, onto him, and we swing for 16 because we have Rhonas out. Why not? Like, that's kind of cool, but it's just one of those nifty little things that you just kind of go with, and if they were to have a card like that or anything else that really just helps stop him in his place, it's good to have a backup card.
Yeah, of course. Last but not least is 2 Authority of the Consuls.
Authority of the Consuls is 1 white, an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battle under your opponent's control, it enters tapped, and you gain 1 life. What the fuck is that smirk for?
Because Well, that's Tommy Strikes Back. We appreciate the views, the watching, the support that we've gotten through the last couple weeks. Stay posted. We will be having... we are currently in a giveaway right now, so keep those subscribes coming. And if this one turns out to be really good, we will put more merchandise in the future giveaways. So I'm Tommy T.
And I'm Holocron.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Hell yeah.